So, so
Are you prepared? You know what you're gonna ask me?
yeah. I honestly, I usually just kind of go for it because it's like I'm very interested in the person and what they do, so I just
Yeah.
kind of like go off the cuff. So,
Cool.
we're live, and I appreciate everyone joining us. We're actually live on. We're live on LinkedIn, TikTok, Instagram. You can find us on the Winning Team Network. That's with a Y. This podcast, we have Money Buys Freedom, episode number 44, with Jayme Campbell, the owner of Bark, BAR K.
Q.
Q. My bad. My bad. So I know you used to play football with the Florida Gators, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So you won the national championship back in 1996, right?
96. Yes.
96.
Yeah.
So I hope you did. Were you able to bring that?
I did.
Okay. I wanted to see this thing so bad.
Funny story, man. I don't wear them much, and brought the national championship one here for you to see.
Oh wow.
But that year we also won the SEC title. And funny story, I kind of keep the story brief, but it went to a Halloween party, not last year, but the year before, and packed up my rings in my pocket. And when I got to the Halloween party, before I even went in, I did make a couple stops before, but felt my pocket and I only found one of my rings, so I lost one.
What?
And I'm pretty depressed about it.
I would be too. Which one did you lose?
The SEC championship ring.
Oh my gosh.
It was a very cool and unique looking ring, and the design of it was pretty awesome. And I still cry about it to this day.
Yeah, because it's got you can't even like find one online or anything because
it
has your name on it.
It has your name and everything. So I don't know, even if somebody Google you or something like, I'll pop up. So they know who owns it. If anyone finds it, they know who owns it. So it's kind of weird,
So did you ever go on like eBay and see like the rings for sale? Because I saw a couple on there. I was like, man, okay, so this you gonna find Campbell on there?
I did not. That's a good idea. That's a good idea. I just backtracked, everywhere I went that the hour before I got there, and just could not find it.
Do you know how much this is worth?
I have no clue.
So
it has a ton of sentimental value, though.
eBay, I looked it up yesterday, $4,000.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's how much it said it was on the. I think it was eBay, and Etsy was like $4,000.
It's funny. Like these days, college rings. Any professional sport rings, they're always like very elaborate and gigantic.
Yeah,
and it looks like it takes up
like 2 fingers.
Or like all 4 fingers. It's like crazy, right? But now college is kind of getting to that same standard, and where they're giving you these gigantic rings. And I remember back when we were getting sized for our rings, I was a freshman, and my mental mind state was telling me, oh, I'm gonna get a ring that's like 2 sizes bigger than what I need. So
bigger.
And now that I'm older, I'm like, man, I can barely get the ring off. What happened?
I mean, that's a big finger too. There you go. Is this like that's probably your actual size, right?
Yeah. It's perfect.
Yeah, because like you even see the World Series rings. It's like messes up their back from like their hands to the side. Like, but
how do you not have a shoulder problem carrying that? It's weird.
So you all won the SEC championship, 1996, right? 1996. Yes. You won the national championship that year. Did y'all lose a national championship like
the year before, lost to Nebraska. I was a senior in high school. Lost to Nebraska and actually got routed by Nebraska in the national championship back in the Tommy Frazier days.
So I'm never like in high school, I've never made it to the championship game. I've actually lost the semifinals like 4 times. I never actually made it to the big game. But even like the national championship, even back then, what was the environment like back then?
It was crazy, being 18 years old, being in, Louisiana, Bourbon Street, seeing all these things, seeing all the bright lights. It was a lot to see, and it's kind of a lot of irony in it. I saw it first year in, and you just kind of got to remind yourself, once you get there, you got to get back. Like that's what's expected, So it's very encouraging. We had a winning program all throughout anyway. So, but it was fun. It was a lot to take in at a young age. Very awesome.
So what made you really get into football though? Like, is this your dad played, or like how did you kind
Well,
of really get into
it's
that?
all my uncles on my dad's side, they all played sports. Had two uncles that went to college. One uncle went to Iowa, played receiver. He
Mhm.
played with actually Bob Stoops, and Bob Stoops was our defensive coordinator my freshman year in college. So they all had this mentality to get out there and play sports. I didn't really play football until I got to high school
Yeah.
because I was always overweight, eating too much of grandma's cooking, and I could never make weight to make the team. So I was pretty fortunate enough to start, football my freshman year in high school and actually make it to a big time D1 school. So I had influence. My uncles used to run me in trash bags,
Yeah.
and I used to go play basketball with them. So I was always around older people, being, kind of not bullied, but kind of pushed around,
Yeah.
just to give you that, that mental state of,
Hmm.
how you need to be to carry your life forward a little bit. So
So that football coach at that high school is probably begging you to come. Please play
yeah, and
football.
that's another aspect of it too. Like Coach Carter, we had a very special high school coach.
Yeah.
Like
Where was this at
this
again?
is right outside Gainesville, a small town called
Oh, okay.
Alachua, Florida. When people ask where I'm from, I always say Gainesville
Yeah.
because people never really heard of Alachua.
Hmm.
But at that time, Coach Carter, he was, if I was to give you a visionary, he was, if you remember, what's his name, Pluto from Popeye. He
Yeah.
reminded me of a big guy with a big old beard. He was an older guy, but he still benched 500
Yeah.
pounds and still squatted like this insane amount.
Jeez.
But he was like the ultimate football coach,
Hmm.
and he was tough on us. But one thing that he did to really set himself apart, he was a genius offensively. We ran a wing style offense, but he took the time, and he didn't get paid for this. He put tapes together
Yeah.
of athletes that showed great potential and sent them off to colleges. And it takes a really special person to do those things and invest their time into making sure your future, or you can potentially have a future to go on and get a college degree. So I was pretty fortunate to go to that high school and have him as a head coach.
So what's your opinion of like how football's kind of changed now? Like it's big, a lot of big difference. Even for when I was played,
Yeah,
it's
it's
like
getting
basketball.
yeah, but it's getting wild, like it's very debatable. Back when I played, universities make ton of money, and
Yeah.
there's this huge argument going on right now saying, hey, athletes are getting paid via their, paying their tuition and going to school and getting their tuition paid for. But there's an aspect of it too. Universities are also making a lot of money just off of someone's
Oh yeah.
name. And so now, it's become very convoluted, right? So now there's something called an NIL deal, name, image, and likeness.
Hmm.
And actually, high school players, based on their popularity, are making NIL deals
Yeah.
where they get paid before they even get to college. So we just lost a Florida, I say,
Yeah.
just lost a 5-star quarterback recruit because his NIL deal fell through, and he was valued at $13 million at the time. This kid's 18 years
Jeez.
old. It's huge. Like
Yeah.
that's the aspect that today's athlete get to think about because of some recent rule changes, and now they get paid off their name if they're a popular player. So it's a totally different game right now. But also within the same concept, and I won't try to get into this too long. The experience is very different.
Yeah.
When they recruit, man, they're putting your father in pads so he can take pictures. They're in your home a lot more.
Yeah.
They're really trying to connect with you, um, in the same way that a teenager think these days, and really try to
Yeah.
get their buy-in to come to the school. So it's completely different.
Yeah.
Completely different.
I was kind of on the fence, like, hey, should they get paid? I honestly like if the colleges don't want to pay the people, that's fine. But at least let them have their name. Like if they want to go out and like do a business or do like
Yeah,
advertising or anything, like, hey, why not? You're like they can't even have like a side business or anything. Like let them
it's
advertise.
very tough to go. I mean, the time when I was in school, the rule, I think like my sophomore year, the rule got passed where athletes can actually work. So there's times where you
That's
couldn't work
crazy.
because for NCAA was afraid that your employer would give you too much money and pad your pocket, and that
Yeah.
can cloud recruitment. That can
Dang.
cloud who goes to what university.
That's wild.
So and just to see where it's at now, man, I can't even imagine.
Yeah.
you know,
That's why I didn't know that. I didn't know that you couldn't even have like a job.
right?
That's like, what if you like? you needed food to live, or let's say
And
you had a kid.
that's another thing too. Like my situation, I came from a low income family. I live with my grandmother. She passed away my junior year in high school. I stayed a year with my aunt. My aunt took care of me that final year so I can stay at this particular high school. So when I actually got to college, I had no home. Like, you know how kids go and break and, oh, it's winter
Yeah,
break. I'm going to go home. They have their own room, or kids are at school, they get care packages. I didn't have that, right? So financially, I really used Pell Grants.
yeah,
I used it to my favor, and I learned how to like manage my money to make sure, a month into the semester or whatever, I wasn't broke.
yeah,
I made sure I spent enough money and had enough to last the whole time because I wasn't getting it.
yeah.
I wasn't gonna get it for a while. So
At least you had that mindset, like, hey, I had have to say, because I've talked to some athletes before, and they like said, I asked them like, well, what's your major? You're going to college? So I majored in baseball. I majored in football.
yeah,
So at
yeah,
least you had that mindset. It's like, hey, I at least got my get my money right, because you've probably heard just like I have, like the athletes that made it to the NFL. How many of them go like broke as soon as they retire? But did that even like between like the locker rooms or people like you, it was on your team? Did that any of them had that thought? Like,
I think, yeah, I mean, a lot of it just depends, and it depends on your surrounding. I think I had the mindset of just survival, period.
yeah,
One regret, if I can say I had a regret about college, is I probably lived in the moment too much,
hmm,
and obviously going to the NFL was always in the back of your mind, but like, I had other worries. Like,
yeah,
I knew I wanted to not be a failure for one, but
hmm,
at the same token, you know, um, I had to make sure I managed every aspect of my life without help just to make sure I just made it through the school year.
yeah,
But, to give an example, like universities are doing a tremendous job. Like I had great guidance while I was at school too,
hmm,
because, stuff like mandatory study hall and stuff of
yeah,
that nature, it kind of made it to where like if you had it in you that you wanted to succeed, then the resources are there,
hmm,
So if you were a low key fuck up.
yeah,
It don't matter what. I've seen student athletes come to school and they were great athletes, but they just could not fit the structure. They could not like do the things that they were supposed to do to make sure that they survive and graduate from school. So some of those things are real important. So I feel like it's just your surroundings, how you're brought up, what your mentality is like, and where your mindset is really.
So what about like you always hear on the internet, like you always hear these stories about like, oh, these people are paying these athletes under the table. Like I was curious even back then, it's probably changed. Like did y'all like, oh, this is like everyone knows this, but no one talks about this. But like the star players that like do that, some of them actually get paid. That
Well, I
it's
can't
so
say
many time has
I can't
passed, so
say
they'd be
that
good.
I can't say that I've actually seen it from like a coaching staff perspective
Yeah.
or the university. What I can say is there has been some questionable stuff where maybe agents step in too
Yeah,
early.
yeah. Yeah.
Agents are trying to always put their stamp on something before it's time,
Yeah, I got you.
and that really clouded the judgment of people
Hmm,
sometimes, especially
interesting.
when you come from a bad environment and you see something you've never seen or see a amount of money you've never seen before.
Yeah.
That gets tough.
So was that who did you play with anyone? I mean, obviously you played the national championship team, but anyone that you know that went to the FL was a super success and like
Oh yeah, like a lot of folks, man. I don't know if you're familiar with these names, but like Fred Taylor, he was an
yeah.
awesome running back for years for the Jaguars.
Did
I
he
think
play
he
for New England?
Patriots. He went
Yeah, he's
to the
actually
Patriots
like
for
he
a
has
while.
a big podcast now
Yeah,
too.
called Pivot.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah.
got you.
Um, Alex Brown was an amazing DN. Javon Curse.
Yeah.
Javon Curse went to the Titans and broke the rookie sack record
Jeez.
his rookie year. I mean, we just had tons of studs. I mean, Ike Hilliard, Riedel Anthony, some of these guys, Danny Werfel, like we had some studs, some studs.
So when you went to Florida, did you think that like, oh, I'm going to go to the NFL, or did you have a plan like, hey, I'm just going to do a business later on? Like, what was your plan really to go in
I
there? I know
didn't
you said
I
survive,
didn't
but
have one.
yeah,
And that was probably my problem. I think I kind of, because I live so close to the University of Florida, and I don't know if this was necessarily a good thing, but starting in high school for my junior year and senior year, I was going to the games for free because
Yeah.
I was kind of seen as a possible recruit.
Uh,
So they were, I was
yeah.
getting free tickets to go to the games and visit the school. So I was already familiar with it.
Hmm.
And I think, and I had two cousins playing on the team at the time. So I think that, that clouded my vision a little
Yeah.
bit, and I actually committed to Clemson before Florida, but my two cousins kind of convinced me to kind of stay home. And that's what I did. And we were stacked with talent there.
Yeah.
So once I got there, I think I was too comfortable.
Hmm.
And I think in life, that can be very problematic for no matter what you do in your life. It's becoming too comfortable because then you kind of lose that knack to kind of push it even harder and go even harder and do even more wherever situation you're in. And so that can be a problem.
So, so was it hard staying focused in like college? Because obviously, like you're D1, you were playing like
Yeah.
crazy. Probably had women after you like crazy. Like staying focused on like,
For
hey,
me, from
fitness.
for me, it wasn't. I've always did what I was supposed to do,
Yeah.
and I think that was something that my grandmother and my family instilled in me. So when I got there, I'd never miss. I got award. I got awards for being the most persistent,
Yeah.
most consistent. Because I would never give up.
Yeah.
And like I didn't miss. I got out of the study hall requirement early because I was deemed not. Like I
Hmm.
always make good grades and I do
Game
everything.
nervous.
Yeah, like they're trying to find out who you are too.
Yeah.
Like
I
you got a
got
lot
you.
to
Yeah.
prove.
Yeah. Interesting.
So since I did that, it just never became a problem.
So let's talk to.
However, before you move on, I knew guys that would go out and party all night, not go home, not go to the dorm, and go to the locker room and dress and be ready for 6 a.m. runs. And you can smell alcohol while they're breathing.
I know a couple of those people.
Yeah, like, and I'm like, I don't know how you can do that. So,
So I played NAIA football in Iowa for a couple years, and there was tons of people that would literally like skip class all day, drink all day, party all night, wake up. Like actually, I probably never even went to sleep, and then go to football weightlifting
oh
early in the
man,
morning. I was like, I don't know how y'all are machines.
man,
Like,
man.
they would
But
just go,
also, it's
and
funny.
they were good too. So
Yeah, it's funny too. When I got to college, it opened my eyes up to so much diversity and what humans are capable of. I'd never, and
yeah, I'm sure.
I'm gonna be extremely blunt. Like I never seen a 6'4", 6 foot tall white guy do a box jump that's almost taller than him.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
I didn't know you had ups like that.
yeah.
Like, but just to see the wide range of athletes and all the talent that was based in one place, and it didn't matter the sport, whether it was baseball, whether it was basketball, like in the different cultures, man, it was really eye opening, really an amazing environment.
It's probably a big reality check, like from high school. As soon as you walk in that locker room at college, you think you're the man. Then you see these people like, dang,
You're not the man. And
like
that and
everyone
that's
is at my level or maybe slight better.
and that's where the mental mindset comes in.
Yeah,
You got to be ready for that.
yeah.
You got to be ready for that.
So what was your mindset to do that? Because like obviously like you probably have to compete with all these people. The same thing with business. It's like it's nonstop competing. So how did you like get like a little bit of edge?
My competitive, I was always competitive. I think I had a fear of failing, and I knew for me the most important thing was to make sure I didn't leave that university without graduating with a degree.
Yeah.
First and foremost, football. I love football, and I gave it my all. We had a lot of talent, and to this day, I sometimes question should I even went to Florida.
Hmm.
You know, would I have played tight end at Clemson?
Yeah.
Should I stay with that commitment? But life kind of went as it goes, and you kind of accept those things. But um, forget where I was going there. But so I just kind of got lost into
Hmm.
not lost, but I just did what I was supposed to do, and I don't want to say football became second, but I did give it my all and just ended up doing something else afterwards.
Yeah, I think the hardest part for me was like right after college. It's because like oh crap, it's like reality. So what did you really had to go through? Like, hey, what did I want to do? What was your like plan this day after your like graduation? Like
Yeah, so that
getting
was
into it.
yeah, that was a really scary part of my life actually. because I knew it was time for me to graduate. I actually gave up my 5th year eligibility, and I don't know. Now that I think back on it, I don't think I really did that intentionally. I think it just kind
Yeah.
of happened. But when I did my internship, I knew I wanted to graduate. But I was kind of faced at a moment where I graduated. I didn't really have a plan after I graduated. I could have went back in school and did grad school,
Yeah.
like got into something else and continued to play. I didn't have any money at the time, and I went through a really hard time when I did the internship because my scholarship was paying for my apartment in Gainesville, but I got slightly extra money to go do my internship in Dunedin. My car broke down 2 weeks in.
Jeez.
I had to spend my I had to spend my scholarship money to get my car fixed. Well, that hurt my living situation.
Yeah.
I ended up staying with the GM of the team for like 2 or 3 weeks, and then I ended up staying with a booster of the Toronto Blue Jays. He's a lawyer down in Dunedin. Stayed with him for a little while because I had like nowhere to go, but I had to finish this internship,
Yeah.
and I've got to know his family really well. And man, like throughout that process, it's like God was like touching me, helping me along. So when I finished that and I had all this help to finish, I was kind of faced with what do I do? Like, do I get a job or what? And luckily, like I landed a job in Richmond, Virginia as a project manager with
Yeah.
Circuit City. So I
That's
kind of,
random. Like
I kind of,
Florida, Richmond.
I had a friend that was from here and from Richmond, and her dad was working for the company at the time. He was like the CFO, and he knew a department that was hiring and landed me an interview. Once I landed the interview, I got the job.
Yeah.
So it was just kind of how everything unfolded.
So that's how you got to the Virginia. What really like after that? How long did you work there, and when was the time period when you started like Bark?
Yeah, it's weird. So Bart came much later. Like I moved to Richmond in 2000, worked for Circuit City for like 2.5 years, got laid off. At that time, I was young and dumb. I was still adjusting to life after
Yeah.
college. Wasn't used to not getting Christmas breaks, not
Yeah. Yeah.
know, not knowing what taxes felt like. Oh, I got to give all this money away. And it was kind of oblivious to what was going on with the company at that time. Company started downsizing. Then our whole department got laid off and dispersed. So after that, I went on unemployment for a while, and I started bouncing at a nightclub. I was like,
Yeah.
man, this is not great. I knew I wanted to do something else, but I got on with a temporary job with an engineer consulting firm and started doing storm relief projects.
Yeah.
Worked with them for a little while. They took me to California, worked on some storm projects, doing cleanup with FEMA money. That was pretty awesome. Then I landed a job with a family-owned plumbing business, plumbing wholesaler in Richmond called Vaymac. Stayed with them for about 8 years, man. It was a great company. Moved up and started running a branch in Norfolk, and that got me to Tidewater.
Yeah.
And along that process, man, I had some tremendous customers, met some new friends, kind of jumped off the VMAC tour for a little while and jumped on with one of my customers and got into construction. And we started our own company. And that was the first company I started, was a general contracting company.
Oh, okay.
And we did office space build outs for customers. We had some pretty good accounts. We were faced with some challenges in the beginning. Um,
So was that nerve wracking though? Because like you went
oh
on
man,
unemployment and then it's like all on you. So it's like, dang,
yeah,
like I don't, and like you said, you're afraid to
it was grind
fail.
mode.
Yeah. So we just grinding like fear of failure, just go, go, go,
Yeah,
go, go.
yeah, that's what life is about, right? Like not giving up and trying to find your way in life. So it's kind of what I did, kind of what I did, even though some of it was nerve
Yeah.
wracking.
So when you started that contract business, like how did that like let's say you started it, was it hard to find your clients or
No, when we started out working with his uncle, got our feet wet, and then we left and started our own company. Once we did that, we had a big project right out of the gate in North Carolina, and that presented some problems because we had no contacts in North Carolina.
mm-hmm.
But we went down there, started doing some of the work ourselves, and then we start subbing some of it out. Once we got down there, found a guy that was another sub. He helped us out, and then we started, completing some of those jobs and started, getting some money in it. One of the problems that we had during that time, as we kept going, was our customers, and I'm not going to say their name because I don't want it to see,
Yeah.
sound, but they're big realty groups, right?
Hmm.
They would pay 60 days. They're paid. They couldn't pay like super fast. Their payment process was just horrible. And for a small company, that hurts, right? Like, because we're paying for material now. You got to have enough money to bankroll all this stuff
Yeah.
and also keep it going and pay people that are working for you. So there's a lot of floating going on.
Sound like you need to find better real estate companies.
There's a lot of floating going
Yeah.
on there, and floating credit cards, and paying stuff off later than you should. But
Because that's like one of our mottos is like you gotta take care of your team. You gotta take care of your contractors
yeah,
because they'll take care of you. If you
yeah,
don't,
for sure, for
that's like
sure.
you're not taking care of your contractors. No wonder you like complaining on the internet they can't show up because you obviously probably haven't paid them or treated them any good.
So that whole process kind of groomed me for barbecue because,
How?
yeah, it's weird. It's weird how it happened, right? Because the guy I was working at the time is one of my best friends, and still to this day, he's still in construction. He rebounded,
Hmm.
but throughout that process, we created a barbecue competition team, right? And it was
Ah,
me and him, and one of the other guys was Chris from ZZQ in Richmond, and we used to travel around. And we all had this common thing. We kind of like barbecue,
yeah.
so we would
Who doesn't?
yeah, we would ride around and we would look for propane tanks and try to figure out, we knew what kind of smoke we wanted to build, blah, blah, blah. So there became a point in time throughout that whole process where I said, all right, Dan, like, we're having some tough times. It would probably be better if I left so you can run this and not have to worry about paying me. And I kind of made the decision to kind of leave and make this venture by myself and see if I can get barbecue going. But before I left, we had already bought a trailer and we had found a couple propane tanks and we had already bought it. So I said, I'm gonna build these. I'm gonna just go do it.
So what was the fear going into that? Because you
Oh,
took
it's
all your eggs in one basket. Like you said, you're afraid of failure. What gave you the energy to just to say, "F it, and go for it"?
well, one of the things I kind of thought about, like I'm the type of person, and this can be a trap, right? Like
Yeah.
I'll look back in life and just see what all I've been through,
Hmm.
see all the challenges I had, see the people along the way that has helped me. And one thing that I kind of realized is I didn't want to say to my future, I didn't want my future self to say, man, I should have tried barbecue because I knew it was a deep part of me that really wanted to try it. I didn't want to feel sorry about that. So that's what really motivated me to just say, well, you only live once, just do it.
Yeah.
Just do it.
Were you married or in a relationship at that time, or?
No, wasn't married. Was in a relationship, I would say, and I was kind of confused and torn because I couldn't give time to that relationship
Yeah.
just because I had so much going on,
Hmm.
and I didn't know at that time. I didn't know who I was as a human and as a man,
Yeah, I understand that.
and growing up, that's a big part of my identity is being able to provide and know who I am so I can provide for others. So, long story short, I mean, I ended up marrying that person,
Yeah.
and that person was instrumental in helping me get to where I am. So,
So was she encouraging, like, say, "Hey, yeah, chase your dreams, chase your dreams"? She's like, "No, don't do that."
yes, oh yes,
Yeah,
big time,
because that's
big
that's
time,
very key. Because it's like if that person is like, "No, don't
big
do that." If
time.
they don't believe in you, your own partner doesn't believe you. I feel like it's really hard for you to go. It's like, man, then you second guess yourself.
And
Should I
this
even
is
do that?
this is why it's important for you to, if you have a passion or if you have a dream, to go after it,
Yeah,
and don't sacrifice anything for it. Go after it, and if you really want something, it will happen as long as you're willing to do what it takes to get there. Because I'm a prime example that, like, along my life, I've been helped and touched by someone to make sure I can take another step and make sure I take another step. And that's kind of been a mantra I can think back to every year in my life where someone along the way in a roundabout way kind of helped me.
yeah,
So it was very encouraging to have that help all throughout the years, and even at that point, to lead me to where I am today. And it's still not over. The journey's
yeah.
not over, right?
Journey just began.
Yeah, the journey is just beginning.
So you said that you like even when you just started, you didn't know who you are. What do you mean by that? Like you just didn't know like what you're supposed to do, your purpose, or anything like that?
Yeah,
Because
like
I feel
what
like that's
is
a common thing. Like even me when I just got out of college, like I had no idea what I was or who I was or anything like that.
yeah, it's important. And I think even as a child, it's important for um, all kids to have a supporting home and a father figure, right?
I agree.
And I was lacking in that department. My grandmother played a pivotal role in my upbringing.
Yeah.
It took me out for a hard time. So growing up, there are some challenges where like you need to look yourself in the mirror and figure out who you are. And some of that stuff is kind of hard to figure out if you don't have the structure that you need to succeed, or if you don't know where you want to go
Yeah.
and what you want to do, right? These things are important. And, I know the kind of things that like I grew up with and where I was lacking with a lot of stuff, but I still had support from uncles. I still had people that was
Yeah.
there that was a strong figure to help me along the way. But like when you look in the mirror, can you do the things that you're supposed to do to provide for others and do stuff to help others?
Yeah.
And I just wasn't there. I just wasn't there. So that was part of an identity crisis I was going through.
So I feel like even like that was kind of my issue too. Is when I didn't know who I was, didn't know what I wanted to do. It's like, what is the whole purpose of life, right?
Yeah.
So it's like when you stop focusing so much on yourself, you have to focus yourself, but it's like, hey, like help people. How do you make other people's day better? How do you make someone else's? I've found more joy by helping other people
Yeah.
than doing myself. And I feel like that is like when you talked about Christianity. I'm also a believer. Also, when Christ came down to earth, what he did is he like gave the blueprints. Like all he did was serve, 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 and
Yeah.
help others.
Yeah.
So I was like, maybe he's showing us the true meaning and true joy in life is helping others. Because if life's all about me, like, hey, I want to get this, I want to get this. Because you see celebrities and all stuff like that, like have everything, but they're miserable.
Yeah.
So it's like obviously that's not happiness, and that doesn't show you who you are. So how? So what is? And from my understanding, it sounds kind of what you're saying. It's like that's from you. That's how you found joy. It's like, hey, how do I serve and
Yeah.
help other people?
Yeah. And I think not to get on the topic of world issues, but I think in today's society, we're missing an aspect in life where people just aren't talking to each other.
Yeah.
We don't know our neighbor. And I'm talking about knowing the differences between two different people and understanding what they've been through and what you've been through. I've realized in life that like, everyone didn't have the same path, but we shared a lot of the same experiences just in
Yeah.
different ways, and we can relate on a lot of things. And that's where a lot of problems come in too, with racial problems and disparity and, education, and a lot of stuff start at home. And there's some missing pieces all over this world.
Yeah. Oh
But
yeah.
I think it starts like, with Bar Q, and part of our culture at Bar Q is my goal has always been to build an environment where there's a positive work environment, but also I'm trying to build a team that I want to build a team to that doesn't have to worry about another job. I
Yeah.
want I want to build like a career. So if they like what they do and we can continue to grow the culture and our product, then I can create situations where a person can be there 30 years.
Yeah.
I want to do that. I want to pay my pit masters a really high pay. I want every aspect of the job to be enjoyable by everybody that works for us. So that part has been a process, but that's part of my goal and what I'm building because, there's a lot of stigmas about restaurants,
Yeah.
high turnover rates and
Yeah,
all,
we're gonna get
all
into that too. But Richard Branson actually said, if you take care of your employees, you take care of
right,
yourself.
right.
So it's like, yeah, your clients are always obviously important, like your people you serve, but your people, if you treat your people right, they'll treat them right. So it's like,
Man, and I've learned a lot over the past 3 years. I learned what some of my weaknesses are. I learned that, maybe I held on people for too long,
yeah,
people that weren't the right fit. And maybe I there's some stuff that I question, but I'm really like this year I've really focused on making that team environment better because I know I can't complete what I'm trying to accomplish for everyone that's with us and on this bus and journey with us without making sure that team is operating efficiently and operating in a very cohesive manner, if that makes sense.
yeah, it does. You mentioned about like hiring and not being able to figure out which is the best fit. How do you go about now hiring the right people or find the right people there? Because you're building a family. How do you find the right people for your family
It's
when no
like
one wants to work?
Yeah, it's been tough. We're located in Ocean View. we're not like in the main city of Norfolk. It's not like a whole bunch of foot traffic behind us. We have a whole bunch of
Yet.
Airbnbs and people that lived on the
Yeah.
beach. Ocean View is being built up. So finding the right people, initially it's all started by like word of mouth. I had a couple kids in high school. I committed a lot. My other half committed a lot of her time. So it's like we kind of just pieced it together. Luckily, we found some people that have become invested. So right now, I got a guy that's been two guys that's been with me since my pop up days.
Yeah.
I got a baker that came on that quit her job as a swim coach as a head swim coach and decided to come on with us. I'm paying her. I learned that I had to give it away, and I ain't gonna lie. Like I fought her. I didn't want to pay her what she wanted at first because I was scared. Like
Yeah.
I was scared. I didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't know, what the outcome is going to be, and if we were going to be able to stay profitable.
Hmm.
But luckily, the product ended up proving that we can do this. And so after I kind of learned that, then it made things okay. And now we're just trying to continue to build.
So speaking of your product, so have you always been that good at
No,
barbecue?
no.
'Cause- so some little context. I had a wedding about probably a month ago, and they were talking about Jayme, and I was like, oh man, this story sounds great. And then I had his food. It was probably the best brisket barbecue I ever had. I was like, this is wild. It was like a brisket barbecue and mac and cheese. Oh, dude, this is heaven.
Yeah.
You
So
can't get much better than this.
one key component, as you listen to everything I say, I always revert back to my grandmother.
Yeah.
I was a little fat kid that was in the kitchen. Like I did not stray far away from her side, especially when she cooked. So some of these things I was fortunate enough when I went to college, I didn't work like I had a meal plan. I kind of because I wasn't used to getting all this free stuff
Yeah.
and I had all these resources,
Mhm.
but I was the same guy that would go into the dorm kitchen and cook rice on the stove
Yeah.
when no one knew how to cook rice on the stove. Like so I was blessed with having her influence. And one of the things that she was passionate about was having Sunday gatherings. And my grandmother actually cooked barbecue on a 5x8 open fire pit in the backyard.
Oh,
So
wow.
that's where the fire was lit for me.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize this till later on in life, like, holy shit, that was my grandmother controlling the live fire, making barbecue for the family, chicken and ribs. And she did this stuff authentically.
Yeah.
No charcoal, nothing else, nothing that cheats the system, just straight up manage a fire, know how to season the meat, know when it's done, know how to test it. Like that was freaking insane.
That's crazy though, because you mentioned that since we talked in this podcast, you mentioned how much your grandmother played such a key role in your life. So I wonder if that's like how it really kind of got there. Is like,
Yeah, that's exactly how it got there because when I moved to Virginia, I looked it was always in me to look for barbecue spots. I
yeah.
had my favorite place in Gainesville, Sonny's barbecue. We were addicted to it.
Hmm.
I was addicted to my grandmother cooking, but there was a void, right? So it's always been in me. So it was only a natural thing that later in life I said, I got to do this. And one common question that I get, so now that we're at Bold Mariner and we're, operating out of their kitchen, a lot of people tend to ask me, "Oh, how do you get the brisket so good?" Or how did you do this? And I always here's what my go-to saying is, "You're asking the wrong question. The question you should be asking is, how many briskets did you screw up to get here?" And it's a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, that's like a key
so
opponent of life
so
too.
yeah, I mean it's
Yeah.
just trials and tribulations, right? And I didn't give up. I just kept making tweaks. And the thing about cooking barbecue authentically is I never used a push button system. I'm using a live fire and we're running pits. You cook briskets, hey, it's a 13, 14-hour job each time you do it. So it's not like you're smoking something for 2 hours and say, "Oh, I screwed this up. I still got all day, so I can
Yeah.
do it again." No, bro. If that
That's
brisket was tough, well, maybe
uh,
I gotta try it again next weekend.
yeah. So my wife, like, she can cook. She cooks good, but she can't bake worth like anything. So I'm gonna have to tell her, I was like, you just haven't screwed up enough. You
Yeah,
gotta
yeah. I
keep
mean, if
going.
you really want to know something, and I bake her. I know I probably annoyed her because I love to bake too, and so I'm
Yeah.
always like, sending her pics. Oh, look what I did at home, blah blah blah, and sending it to her. So it's like, I'm just a fat kid at heart,
Yeah.
right? Like, so I just do these things, and once I get my mind on something, it's like I want to complete it and figure it out. Like I research. Like I couldn't figure out how my grandmother made red velvet cake. How did she get it so moist? Why did I remember this? Why didn't I get this recipe?
Yeah.
And I just started doing it until I got it.
Hmm.
And so just one of those things.
That's my father-in-law's favorite cake is red velvet.
Oh, that's mine too.
So is bark? Is it separate like bark and desserts, or is that the same place? You just have two different.
Yeah, same place, but like barbecue desserts is the identity we have for our baked goods.
Hmm.
Um, and we're trying to decide. Obviously, it's going to be a big part of what we're doing moving forward. But yeah,
Yeah,
it's like just our
because
alter ego,
I've
I
never had
guess.
your desserts, but like just from the social media post, I'm like, dang, these things look really, really good.
Yeah, Nikki, I've kind of given her the full reins and let her kind of do what she wants. And obviously, I sprinkle a little bit of things in there that I want her to do, and she doesn't really fight me on it. And obviously,
Do you
we
go to Hell's Kitchen like taste? Nah, throw it away. You gotta go again.
nah, I'm a snob too, bro. Like,
Uh,
like I'll quick to tell you if something sucks.
uh, I guess you gotta be like that for food though, because the food's so critical like
I'm
that.
gonna tell you this, like, yes, once you hear a person tell you that they tried something you had and it's the best thing they ever had, that part is addictive.
So me every time I yeah
Like, because at that point when you go to work, you
yeah
want to figure out what else can you do to make somebody go crazy.
yeah.
Like, what is it? What is going to be that next thing that people can't wait to buy?
Hmm.
And so now that we're kind of in this chemistry of work where we get to create things,
Yeah.
it's like the perfect environment for me.
So I always like restaurant industry was never really the industry I ever wanted to be in because I've always heard that the turnover is really really bad
Right.
because let's say food obviously goes bad if you don't use it. So what's that part of the business look like?
It's tough. We've been fortunate to keep a good core of people with a couple kids that kind of went in and out that went on to do other stuff. But I tell you this, like I invested in a wing company with a friend called the Cocky Rooster, and it's in Richmond. Now I'm invested in two of those locations. And although our two journeys was different, and I was able to retain most of the people that I had since my pop-up days, with a couple additions, obviously. Um, with Cocky Rooster, we always had a challenge of um, that turnover rate, people getting in, they're not who they say they are.
Yeah.
The work environment can be rigorous when you're doing wings and chicken sandwiches and stuff. Like those orders got to get out. You got to know what you're doing. You got to know how to read tickets on the fly
Yeah.
and understand like the process of everything. Man, we went through some people like crazy, and I learned a lot from that leadership group from Cocky Rooster because they didn't blink an eye. They got rid of who they needed to get rid of, and they jumped in to help, and they kept rebuilding. And I kind of admire that because that's what always I've been kind of weak at. So since then, they developed a system that we call a pod system, where we're creating I think it's two different groups of people that run it on a 7-day week, right? And these two different groups, everybody in both groups, you only work 3.5 days out of the week,
Hmm.
but it covers the 7 days.
Yeah.
So what we get out of that is employee retention, in the sense that you get the rest of that time off. You may work longer hours on those days that you work, but your break is so much longer, and you're not seeing the disadvantage of not making the money from not working, and you're still getting the same amount of tips.
Yeah.
But it's creating a healthier work environment, and it's something that we were actually article came out in the Richmond Business about what we're doing there. So hopefully, we're setting some trends from that department,
So y'all started a 3 hour work week, like you just
or a 3.5 day work week
dang. So
that's
obviously,
ran by two different groups.
yeah,
So they rotate. They were, and then this other group is
I
the second
gotcha.
half, and they have off the rest of the week.
I got you. That's cool. Yeah, you probably saw like obviously from an employee standpoint, that sounds amazing.
Yeah,
So
yeah. Because
because
think
most
about that. You get the rest of the week off.
yeah,
Your
'cause-
pay doesn't go down.
yeah. So and you're working the same amount of hours, you're just working them
Yeah,
all at one
just a little
time.
bit longer.
So what? So that obviously probably brings a lot of for like employee standpoint, a lot of people coming through your door wanting to do that. So does people usually like doing that
So,
or
so what we noticed right out the gate was, and here's a struggle too. And we did this with BarQ. We went on these, employee finding apps and websites,
yeah,
charges you a lot of money. What happens is these employees sometimes they play the game, right? Uh, you can have 30 hits in a day and set up 30 interviews, and a lot of times we'll have one person that show up.
yeah,
And I just thought that was wild. Like, is this the world we're in? Like,
probably.
and I know COVID have restructured how every workplace is being ran right now. And if you look around, all restaurant businesses they have help wanted signs up. So what we noticed right out of the gate was when we changed the system and advertised it as a benefit for them to only work 3.5 days a week, whoever we set up an interview with, everyone showed up.
Yeah.
Every person showed up. That's wild. And now we have enough employees and we just implemented the system to our second location. So that's amazing. So hopefully we're changing the game.
That sounds like
Hopefully we can get credit for
yeah,
this down
yeah.
the road as a game changing thing.
That's
And not every restaurant, not every place can probably do it. It all depends on the structure of your business too, So
because you probably have at least a little turnover. Like if you say, okay, we have just enough amount of staff that houses
well,
people, you push that 3 hours, 3 hours, like
yeah, and
getting enough people.
the team has to work well together.
Yeah,
Is everybody pulling their weight? You know.
yeah, huh? Interesting.
So some stars still have to line up, but yeah,
So what about like your employees' mentality? Are they more like more productive working
big
three?
time,
Yeah, I can see that
big time.
because
More fun. They're more refreshed. They're ready to come back.
yeah,
So it's just their whole environment is just completely changed.
a 4 day week and that sounds amazing.
Yeah. So right now, BarQ, we need a couple more solid employees, and I'm trying to, with the structure we have at Bold Mariner, I'm trying to create a system to where it's a much more solid rotation, so I can change the pay structure with a little bit and make everyone accountable for one job instead of many different little jobs.
Hmm. Yeah.
So it's challenges there.
So what's your, I guess, goal for Bark? And are you sure a part owner in the one in Richmond or like just in
Yeah, I'm
event?
just a part owner for Cocky Rooster. Yeah.
Okay. So what is your goal for those companies or what's your goal for like you as a businessman? Like what's your goal going forward? Like what do you want to do?
So right now, the main focus is to get Bark, continue to brand with Bark, and continue the vision of building something to how I envision Bark being ran. BarQ kind of stands for like an awesome bar environment with the selling of barbecue, obviously, and that's always kind of been the game plan. So
So where the
uh,
name came from? It's like a bar.
yes, BarQ,
Okay, yeah, I
yeah.
gotcha.
And we have an amazing relationship with Bold Mariner. So what we built at Bold Mariner, which we're cleaning it up now, is great, right? So, and we're in a community there that loves us and really like the product we're putting out. So we want to keep that there, but we still need to kind of complete our mission also. So we're
Hmm.
working on some stuff now. We just purchased a food truck that is currently being built, so we're hoping to kind of expand our name and try to put our flag down somewhere and expand the brand a little bit. But with Cocky Rooster per se, um, we want to do some more locations on the East Coast, and I hope that I'm in a position to continue to stay on for the ride.
Yeah.
So yeah, expansion everywhere we can is kind of the goal.
So do you want to have another a Bark location in Hampton Roads or do you want to like,
That's the
hey,
big question. That's kind of tough because I live in Richmond now.
oh really?
Yeah, I live in Richmond, um, and there's some barbecue guys here that are up and coming, doing some great things. We have a huge following. This is weird. We're located in Norfolk, but I got a big following in Chesapeake.
Yeah.
And I know, like, man, I
Chesapeake people
kind of,
love barbecue.
man, I kind of, so we'll see what happens. We'll see what fate has for us.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, if you ever have troubles opening a Chesapeake, I got you. I'll find a way to make it work.
and it's funny too. We love our relationship with Bold Mariner. I know. I think they're still looking at expanding. If they expand into a market that supports barbecue, we would love to expand with them and continue that. So should be some options
Yeah.
if I'm willing to keep hustling.
So what do you track like per like your customers? Like do you track like, hey, this is a certain demographic people that like barbecue? This is like how do you that kind of aspect of the business? Do you track like when you let's say you go to a new location, do you track like your demographic of people that like barbecue in a specific
Well,
area
with
or
opening Bold Mariner, there was no tracking at all. We just kind of popped in that environment and hoped that and wish for the best.
yeah. Yeah.
But after I got into the business a little more, I learned a lot more about looking into, how many homes are in the area, what other business in the area. Something that you kind of notice is, if Starbucks, Chipotle, Chick-fil-A, if some of these companies are popping up in certain places, especially up and coming places, it's usually a sign, right?
Yeah.
I don't have the resources
Because
to
they
run.
do a lot more than we
They
do.
do a lot of market research.
Yeah.
They do a lot. And I don't have, I do have some resources to do some of that research. I'm involved with an amazing realtor that actually just sold her firm out of Richmond, and she does some really great work. And she can find out a lot of information. But I kind of learned to kind of look at some of those bigger things
Hmm.
and study other people too to try to see what would be good for just business in general.
Yeah.
And of course, foot traffic and the draw. What are you pulling from? That's always the question, right?
Yeah.
Who's around you? What else? Is there any other barbecue? Do they provide the same product that you're providing? Some of these are very important things you really got to think of.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, there's some barbecue spots. I mean, but honestly, I mean, compared to like what y'all have over there, I don't think
And I'm a snob, man. Like,
it's more like of a franchise barbecue. Would you ever want to go that route?
no,
Like, no,
never,
I got you.
never.
Just because you want to be like hands on and control like the quality and stuff.
Yeah, and it's tough, because we're not using a commercial smoker unit, right? Like, it's easy to teach someone to season a brisket and put it on this smoker, push this button, set your time, come back at a certain time and look at it.
Yeah,
That's easy, right? But there's a huge difference when something is ran on a manual pit versus a non-manual pit. And someone's cooking that meat, manning that fire, and paying attention to that product every step along the way and know what to look for, know how to feel things, and know when it's done. Those are two different products.
mm.
And that's what sets a lot of people apart, right? Like, you can tell when something's authentically done and something that's, they just did it.
So you getting into the barbecue and food industry, does it like ruin going to places to eat now? Because the reason I say that is because my I guess my brother-in-law, he's my sister's boyfriend. He's a chef in Austin, and he's super critical of food. He's like,
Yeah,
man, they did this for me. He's like,
it's
what are they
horrible.
doing? Like,
It's a
I
double-edged
was like, oh,
sword.
this is good. He's like, no, this is
It's a
horrible.
double-edged sword. You want to tell you how this works?
Yeah,
So I'm a rib guy, right?
yeah,
Even though we make Central Texas style brisket, every time I go out of town, I gotta eat it at a barbecue spot.
hmm,
Like, I can't help it. I just want to see what they're doing. I just
yeah.
want to see what it tastes like. But guess what happens every time I eat at it?
You just ruined your
It
day.
sucks. I mean, I have yet to go to Texas. Obviously, if I go to ZZQ, like, their stuff is like amazing, right?
Yeah,
Like, but when you go to some of these other places in towns, you just see like how, like, man, they're missing the markers on so many. I should say missing the markers. They're cutting so many corners, and it show like, but that's the beauty of it also, because with this industry that we're in, there's so many different versions of it.
yeah,
Your version of barbecue can be different, completely different than mine. And that's the beauty of it. I just want you to taste mine.
yeah.
So it's kind of a double-edged sword. Like, I go to places I won't even try the brisket, right? I just won't. Like, because I feel like I waste my money every time. But
Yeah,
I
you
will.
should just create a show, teaches people to help you out, like so you can go in the area. It's like, okay, this is halfway decent. Like, Create
it's
create the
weird.
next
It's
Hello Kitchen
weird. I
for
look at
brisket.
pictures on Google, and I
Yeah.
can tell. I can look at something, and be like, "Oh, that's legit.
Oh,
We gotta
really?
try this spot. Like, we gotta try this spot." Or,
Just
yeah,
from the photos? What if they have
just
really good Photoshop?
you can still tell.
Oh, I
You can
got you.
still tell. It's weird. So it's a double-edged sword. Like I gotta go, and then every time I go, it's like, oh, I just wasted a meal.
Yeah. So I've always seen like a correlation. Me doing this, starting this podcast, I've always seen like fitness and health correlation to business and success. And funny to just bring this up, I wanted to tell a story because I was talking to Ben Smith at CrossFit Krypton a couple weeks ago, and he said he said you owe him a barbell because you broke the
Oh yeah,
this guy.
probably so.
So this guy was trying to deadlift over 700 something pounds, bent the barbell and broke the barbell at
Sorry.
CrossFit Krypton a couple years. First off, that's crazy.
Sorry.
So what was the most you've ever deadlifted there? That's
I've
wild.
only the most I've ever deadlifted was 750 at a meet in North
Good
Carolina,
gosh.
and with powerlifting, there's some give and take with because you're doing three different lifts, and there's always a give and take. I kind of learned throughout the process. So, as in your course and training, let's say you never had all three that was good, bench press, squat, and deadlift. So,
Yeah.
something always sacrificed, right? And I
That's
noticed,
interesting. That's a good point.
yeah, like something always sacrificed. So, there's a meet where I deadlifted super heavy, but I didn't squat as much. So, I took time, I refocused my training. I started squatting four times a week.
Hmm.
Well, the next meet, I squatted 800 pounds, but
Good
I missed a
gracious.
730 deadlift or 727, which before I got that with ease, but
Jeez.
I was completely toast after the squat. Like
Dang.
so. There's always some give and take, but the most I've ever been, deadlifted was 750 in a meet.
Yeah.
Squatted 804,
Good
maybe
gracious.
bench just 465, and for being a big guy, my bench sucked.
I when I played football, I blew up my knee. I had a guy tackle me, and my leg like popped up, blew the whole knee out. And my bench was actually the best after that because all I could do was
Yeah,
bench.
you focus on it more,
I
right?
so I literally because my leg was in a sling, I literally benched every single day, like twice a day. I benched 400 twice. That was the most I ever did. I'd never be able to get back to that. But it
Yeah,
was like I literally could do nothing. I I literally just benched all day,
yeah.
and I got to like 400 twice. I was like, damn, I really wish I had done this one. The plan.
Yeah.
So
So one thing that man, I really enjoyed my time at CrossFit Krypton, and to this day, I still miss it. One of the things I kind of learned at CrossFit Krypton, Ben Smith. I was rooming. I don't know. Do you know Adam Klink?
oh yeah.
So me and Adam Klink was roommates
Hmm.
for 4 years. And he kind of helped run the place with them and
Yeah.
became like their
Great
manager of
guy.
some sort. Oh man. And so when I got across, Adam convinced me to come, so I came. And at the time, I think I got there, I was like 315, something like
Hmm.
that. I really surprised some people because even though I was that heavy, I still had a pretty decent mile, and
Yeah.
it shocked the shit out of people. They didn't
If
understand
I,
it.
you should have told me like, dude,
They're
this
like,
is nothing. We used to play football.
where did this come
Yeah.
from? Like, but they didn't understand my background, so I just
Probably
had that to
scared.
defend
Like,
me.
God dang, this dude she can run this fast.
But one thing that Ben Smith really intrigued me, he kind of instilled in me the mindset of he will always give me these challenges, and he will always say to me, I want to see how strong you are when you're tired.
Yeah.
And that changed everything for me because he started when I came to class, he started designing the workouts around me. He would put the heavy lifting after all the
Oh, I
body
hate that.
work
That is
stuff
so annoying.
afterwards. And I was like, man, what are you doing? I'm dead. I'm dead. But what happened is over time is it got me in such good shape. Like it was just nuts. And like I got to the point where obviously, when I first got there, I could not gymnastically, you can hang that up, bro. I wasn't swinging on the bar. But there's a video on Instagram when I got my first not muscle up. What is it on the bar? Not a muscle. Muscle up is with the rings,
Yeah.
but
No, well, it's a bar
I
muscle up. Bar muscle
yeah,
up.
when
Yeah.
I got my first one and I got to the top and I screamed, the whole gym went nuts.
I have to find that one.
But it was a very challenging moment, and he really pushed me in a way that was very extremely, extremely it challenged me, but it pushed me just to another level.
Yeah.
And I admire him for that because I think he just saw me as a little project and he just wanted to see what I can do.
He does that though. Like he wants to push everyone. That's like his whole mentality is help make people better. I think that's like it'd be a shame to go through life and not see what you're fully capable of.
Right.
Like it's so cool.
So, and it's funny that you say that because what ended up happening was while I was there, I became the ultimate hype man. Like everybody
I can
wanted
see
me
that.
around when it was time to do something heavy
Yeah.
because for some reason I motivated them because they knew I can do a lot.
Yeah.
And that's what they took. That's what they got out of me. And
Hmm.
that really made me feel great.
Yeah.
Like because I felt like I was helping others just by being there for them. I would sometimes come to workouts even though I had already worked out, but I would come support these other people just because they wanted me there
Hmm.
and they were going for a PR or something, and it was like,
But
it
yeah,
was
they just saw you broke the barbell the
yeah.
day
After
before.
I walked through the door, and they were hyped. They're like, hell yeah, let's go, let's go, let's go. So that was the Smith family really provided an environment that was amazing, man.
there's a
I love them to this day.
there's a lot of like actually extremely in shape people there.
Yeah,
A lot of really in shape
yeah,
people there,
yeah. So yeah, like
men and women.
yes,
So
yes, and that's amazing, right? And they do a good job. Obviously, Ben Smith, the whole Smith family, they're tried and tested, right?
yeah,
Ben is tried and tested.
yeah.
How many years did he go straight to the games? Like 10 years?
I don't know. It was a long time.
Yeah, 10 years, 11 years straight, something like that. I mean, that's insane.
Yeah.
That's insane. So, their work ethic is just hard to, compare to anything else.
Yeah, honestly, that's one thing I give the. That's why I think the games like CrossFit is like kind of underappreciated. Is like
Yeah.
how much. Like I feel like even in the sports, like you can kind of like if you're on the top, like your name can do it. Like you really can't compare that much. But in like CrossFit, like you literally gotta work out all day long. Like it's not forgiving.
It's a job. It's a job at that point, you have to have that capacity to be able to work out 3 to 4 times a day and be able to structure that.
So I was actually one of the people that used to drink and go work out after college. But you cannot do that going to
No,
you will die.
yeah, yeah,
You will
your
die.
body, yeah, you really have to clean up everything
Yeah.
with your
And
lifestyle.
you will suffer. Like if you don't eat right or everything, it will tell you you'll pay the price.
Yes,
You'll pay the price.
yes,
So that's something I do like there because it's like and what one good thing about I do like about CrossFit is like everyone's good at different things.
yeah.
It's like that's what I think is about cool
Everybody
about
has their wheelhouse.
yeah. And same thing with life. It's like it kind of teaches you a lot about life because like I don't think anyone's better than another person. Like
Right.
no one's smarter than another person. You're obviously
Yeah,
way
that
smarter than me
teamwork.
at barbecue. Maybe I'm more smarter at real estate. Like everyone's smarter at different things. That's why I think CrossFit teaches you because like you said, like you said you can forget the bars, like
Yeah,
screw that thing, but you just squatted 800 pounds, like holy crap.
yeah, yeah,
So everyone's good at something different. And I think that's kind of correlation to like life. Like don't think you're better than everyone because someone's better than you at something.
yeah,
So
yeah. And we all need each
yeah,
other.
yeah,
Whether you like it or not, we all need each other, man. We're one race. We're one race. We're all
yeah.
humans.
All
That's the
God's people.
that's the common denominator. And I wish we would all just kind of see that.
So what's your like? So you mentioned a little bit about your plan, but what's your like? Honestly, you probably already answered this. What's your why? Like you talked about, hey, I didn't know me, know who you were back when you just started. Obviously, you found who you were now. What do you mean by that? Like, what's your why and what's your purpose? What are you trying to do?
Well, now
Loaded
it's
question.
huh?
I said loaded question.
Yeah, I mean, that can go many different ways, but I feel like at this point in my life, since I kind of figured out I have a job to where I finally feel like I'm doing what I'm meant to do
Hmm.
is to continue to not only build this brand, but part of our mission is to, and this ties into a lot of what's going on with the world, but to make people understand that we have a lot of common denominators between us all, and food is one of them.
Yeah.
And with that being said, a lot of Southern food people don't know and have no clue on where some of this stuff came from. and how some of this stuff was created. And a lot of this stuff was created from a struggle. It was created from a past that a lot of us to this day don't understand. Um,
What was it from?
Slavery, not only slavery, but like just hard times in general. Who would ever thought that, mac and cheese was um, brought to America because a slave cook was sent overseas to learn how to cook a certain way and came back and brought it back to the
Oh,
United
that's
States.
crazy.
That's nuts. You know, it really humbled me. I grew up on collard greens, right?
Hmm.
It humbled me to have an old white guy traveling through the area through North Carolina pull me to the side and say it was the best collard greens he ever had.
Yeah.
So for me now, there's a mission with food, right? And my mission is with food or whatever establishment that we're destined to build is to bring all ethnicities together
Hmm.
and sit at the table.
I like that.
And also, with that being said, I feel like with the state of barbecue in the United States today, there's not enough African Americans that are at that table. We see a lot of white pitmasters all
Yeah.
throughout Texas and stuff like that, but there's a lot of stuff that gets erased or forgotten about on how it came from before it got to that point.
Yeah, I got you.
And people need to understand that.
Huh. So, what would be your best piece of advice for, let's say, people like they want to do that? They want to do that. Like, what's your best piece of advice to to get started? Because I always feel like the hardest part is getting out of your own way and making that first step.
You just got to find something that means a lot to you. And, for me, I didn't know what it was initially. And it took that leap of faith for me to jump out and say, I know one thing. I don't want to regret not cooking barbecue for people and not giving it a shot. And that's how I stumbled upon it and just kind of, realized this is what I'm supposed to be doing because, early on in our process, I used to always say, oh, we're Texas inspired, you know, and what I started learning was there were other people that were seeing what we were doing, and then they were kind of copycatting us on some stuff. Um, and then I had a very interesting conversation with Chris from ZZQ right before ZZQ opened in Richmond, and he was really stressed at that particular time. And I didn't know if he was mad at me because he had also just found out that like I was opening the spot, and he was really trying to protect his brand.
Yeah.
But he had a really important message when we sat down and talked, and his message was, you need to be authentic to yourself. And as we had that conversation, I realized, you know what? Why am I saying Texas inspired? Chris, from ZZQ built a location in Richmond. You can take his restaurant, put it in Texas, and it'll be one of the best barbecue places ever. And it has that Texas feel.
Hmm.
I'm not from Texas. And that's what made me look in the mirror and say, who are you? Where are you from?
Yeah.
Who are you raised by? And I started focusing on my childhood influences and who fed me
Hmm.
and what do we enjoy? What do we do? We had Sunday gatherings. All the family was together every Sunday. All my uncles, my grandmother did all these things just to make sure everybody was together every Sunday. So I changed my focus, and that became my why.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where we are now. Now I feel like I'm blessed because now I'm doing what I'm supposed to do, and I won't stop.
Yeah.
I won't stop until we continue to build that and continue to find ways to educate people in an awesome way and put everyone at the table.
I love that because, like you said, food actually does bring
It
everyone
does.
together.
Think about it.
Like parties, weddings,
We
y'all
all
have
got to
bring
eat,
food. I have friends giving area. Everyone comes together. Like I love that mission, and that's like, hey, I'm using food to like, hey, like bring the gap and bring people closer
right?
together.
Right.
So,
That's important, and I think food is a great tool to kind of do that and help people understand, the history behind some of it. So that's kind of my mission now.
interesting. Well, I don't even know what to say after that.
Sorry,
No,
didn't mean to stump you, but not get too deep. But
I love that.
that
I had
actually
no
what
idea.
motivates me now.
So, is there anything else like food related that like people don't know that really like impacts you? That aspect, like you said, like about chicken and barbecue and stuff like that. Is there anything else like that?
Um,
Because you said your passion is about like educating people where like all that stuff come from.
yeah, particularly the Southern style
Yeah.
cooking. Obviously, I'm not Italian, so I can't make, I can't make the best noodles or whatever.
You
But
just haven't failed enough.
you're right. You're right. You're right.
Gotcha.
I guess I could go insert myself in that environment. Let me move
Yeah.
overseas and figure that out. But
Uh,
I really haven't thought about anything else. We're trying to create an environment where creativity is allowed.
mhm.
And we want to hear what people think. We want to hear what other employees think, and we need their buy-in, and you know want to just keep creating new things, and keep finding ways to make people sit down and have a meal with us and hear a story.
So I love that. I feel like there's two different ways to lead. You can do like the dictatorship ways, like hey, what I say, do what I say, when I say to do it, or you can do like the leadership side, like, hey, community, hey, let's get different inputs and all like creativity, like because I might think of something you don't think about, like hey, let's all bring like the team and network. Do you think sports really helped distill that into you in business, like a community? Hey, you got your job, you have this the offer, I have this offer, let's all do it together.
Yes, because sports kind of provided that competitive edge, the desire to just achieve something, the common goal, um, the goal to be at the championship.
Yeah,
All these things, teamwork, all these things are you know extremely important. This is why a lot of these sales companies, pharmaceutical companies, for sure,
yeah.
love college athletes, because a lot of times they can be go-getters. There's some college athletes that are not like that also.
Yeah.
But if you were successful, you accomplished a certain amount of things, and they kind of know, you have that gift to keep pushing, right? And get through adversity. So if we can teach you to make a product, then that's fine. But we can't teach the desire to just want to do something, or be better, or the desire to create. So those things are important, and sports played a very important role in that.
So if you had told me what your why was, that you wanted to start barbecue, the bark, I would have knew, like I would have wanted to invest in that company just simply by knowing what your why was, because I always heard the companies who have a why that's bigger than themselves always are like super successful. Like for instance, like I think they talked about Sony, the guy who created Sony, he wanted Japan to be known for quality. That
Yeah,
was his big mission, not a money mission. It was like something that was bigger than himself.
yeah,
Like even like Amazon, Amazon wanted like obsessive over customer service, customers first, all that stuff.
yeah,
So when your business is something bigger than you, something you will never technically achieve, you can always continue to grow. It's not like, hey, I want to make this much, I want to make this amount of money. It's something that's like nearly impossible. You're always going to be striving to get better, and you can bring like your teammates, your coworkers, say, "Hey, this is our mission. Like, let's all do this together."
yeah. And, one of the things we do at Bark too, and I'm trying to instill this in the team to make sure they continue to understand this, but when I work there, they see it. So my team has really gotten good at this. Is that sometimes I'll give shit away
Yeah,
just so you can have it.
yeah,
Or if someone don't feel fulfilled, I have that grandmother, and that grandmother instinct in me would say, "Hey, you want some more?" And I give them something for free. Hey, try this. And what that does is, not only we always want people to try our product, but also it gets people's buy-in. If something's good, you'd be surprised when you give someone something, how good that makes them feel. They may think you're the most awesome person ever just because you gave it to them.
yeah,
But I like to see people happy. I want to see people fulfilled. I want them to be satisfied with what they got. I want them to, have something and enjoy it,
yeah,
So I always try to keep my finger on the pulse and make sure my team does too. That in case there's any bad vibes, let's try to nip it in the bud. We don't want anybody walking out unhappy, and that's just kind of something that, I just kind of learned along the way. And I learned in the very beginning too, because when we first started, we didn't do full on barbecue in the beginning. We were doing all these, tacos, burritos, grilled cheese sandwiches, but it was made with barbecue items. And when we would get slow, we would give stuff away just for people to taste it. But it's kind of like in our DNA to
yeah.
to bring them in and also, make people fulfilled a
So
little
do you
more.
still do all those products, or do you just kind of like narrow down to like your specialty? Because they said like,
So
hey, you don't want to go
yes,
too wide, you want to go deep.
yes and no. What I kind of figured out is I think I stumbled upon another concept that I need to kind of get to as another challenge. So
Yeah.
there's something after BarQ that I want to work on that's kind of in our DNA that we need to get off our chest.
Hmm. You don't have to say it on here.
Yeah, yeah.
So
So there's more to come.
okay, looking forward to seeing it happen. But one question. So I think marketing is like probably one of the key components of business is getting like known, because they always say like the best products don't make the most money. Like Nike shoes probably aren't the best like feeling shoe, probably not the most comfortable, but they make the most money. Why? Because they're the most known.
Yeah.
So how do y'all go about just starting out getting your name and recognition out there?
Well, right now and initially, man, like we even to this day, we're still getting a lot of word of mouth stuff. And that's been tremendous for us. Like people always come in and say, "Hey, I heard about this place." So I had to come and try it, and then they end up liking it, and then they tell someone else. So that's been huge. But other than that, man, it's been social media, social media. And we will always try to, even till this day, still get out and do pop-ups just so people continue to know about us. And we try to reach people that we haven't been able to reach before and try to get them to know that we're at 1901 East Ocean View.
Yeah.
Like that's always the goal, is to bring them back to that address and get them to try the food and the beer.
Yeah, because a lot of times it is hard getting that name and everything out there.
Yeah. Yeah, especially when, um, when you don't have the other resources or the budget to do like commercials and stuff of that nature.
Yeah, right.
Like so some of that stuff is very tough when you're a small business.
Okay. So let's say like an entrepreneur just wanted to start a business. What would be your last piece of advice for them?
Um, don't be scared to jump off the cliff. But I would also, I know everyone's journey is different. Mine, I was in one of my friend's backyard, and he allowed me to cook there on a regular basis and make stuff and keep messing it up. But also along the way, he was building the pit for me that he didn't know how to build, and I helped him along the way. But just not being scared to just go out there and try it, because you only live once. And
Yeah.
that's a horrible feeling. Like I look back at stuff, and sometimes I say, "Oh man, I could have did this," but that's a horrible trap to fall in. And you just don't want to look at it and say you regret anything. Like that's tough.
That's one thing. Like, so I'm about to have our second daughter, and one thing I really wanted to instill in them, I want to like lead by example. It's like, hey, how am I supposed to say, like, Blake, go chase your dreams? Like, well, did I chase my dreams? Like, lead by example. It's like, hey, I'm gonna do my best to chase my dreams, because
And
I want them to
and
chase
that's a
their
challenge,
dreams.
right? So, and that takes a lot of yourself looking in the mirror and figuring out who you are
Yeah.
and relating that child to you.
Yeah.
And I think naturally, with anyone, like if you have a son or a daughter, getting them involved in whatever you're doing and making sure they're doing what you want to do, and make sure you know what they want to do. I don't have kids, I have two step kids, but you know, everyone around me knows, hey, if they're showing interest and they want to hit this baseball, well, I'm gonna take them to every chance. I'm
Yeah.
gonna take them to every chance I get to hit a baseball and let them do that, because finding out these things are important, and discovering what you're capable of is important, particularly as a child. Like, and getting them knowing what you do and your why and why you do it is extremely important. And a lot of that is missed, and a lot of that's missed in the Black community too. So
Yeah.
that's a whole nother conversation.
Yeah. So I guess just to wrap everything up, where can people find more about you?
My social media handles, I guess.
Yeah. Which was it like?
It's at BAR underscore Q.
Hmm.
That's our Instagram handle. And my personal one is Pitmaster Cam, at Pitmaster Cam.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I appreciate you coming on here. I've had an amazing time.
Thank
Got
you.
to see my first national championship ring,
Thank
so
you.
I really appreciate you coming on, and I appreciate everyone who's listening. And just so everyone knows, we go live every week. Um, I think the next one is March 31st. We're going live on Instagram, TikTok, in YouTube and LinkedIn. Feel free to follow, like, and definitely, I'm telling you, you're not ready. You really need to check out his spot.
Thank you.
Best barbecue spot I've ever had, and I've been saying that even before he agreed to come on the show.
Thank you. I appreciate
So
it.
I appreciate having you on here. It's been a pleasure.